Hello brothers and sisters and subscribers, my name is Don. Thank you to all my subscribers. I want to do an important video because the symbol of the cross, that's what I want to deal with. In this part I will deal with what the Bible says about idols and images, the history or the origin of the cross that Christians use, and at the end, was Jesus really crucified on a cross, or was it something else? That's at the end. So I will talk about this. The devil's very crafty, believe me. Everywhere you look in a church, you see crosses or crucifixes where the image of Christ on a cross. It's become a symbol of Christianity. And what do you see in churches? A lot of crosses. It made me suspicious. I checked the history, the background of the cross. I will talk to you about that. First of all, what does the Bible say about the veneration of the cross or idols, or images? 1 Corinthians, this could be a cross or a crucifix. My beloved ones, 1 Corinthians 10:14, flee from idolatry, that is from idol worship. An idol is an image or symbol that is an object of intense devotion, veneration or worship. I'll do more about idols in another part. But this is still a cross or a crucifix, can be still viewed as an idol, because an idol is an image or symbol that is an object of intense worship, veneration and devotion. Exodus 24 verse 5 in Jerusalem Bible. You shall not make for yourselves a carved image of any likeness of anything in the heaven or on the earth beneath, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. Notice that God commanded that his people not make an image before which people would bow down, because there's a temptation to bow down. A crucifix has an image of Christ's representation, but it's still an image. It's any image of man, woman, bird in the air, animal on the ground or fish in the sea. No image of any type. In fact, in Revelation, who's cast into the lake of fire? I know it's the second death, where there's complete destruction. Anyone conquering, it says here, will inherit. That's chapter 21 of Revelation. Will inherit these things. I shall be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowards and those without faith, and those who are disgusting in their filth, and murderers and fornicators, and those practicing spiritism and idolaters, worship of idols, and all the liars, their portion will be in a lake that burns with fire and sulphur, which means the second death. You see, God makes it quite clear, images of any kind, or or idols or images, is completely against it, and will be, and warns about the lake of fire, the second death. What else does it say in the New Catholic Encyclopedia? The representation of Christ's redemptive death on Golgotha does not occur in symbolic art of the first Christian centuries. The early Christians, influenced by the Old Testament, prohibited of graven images, were reluctant to depict even an instrument of the Lord's Passion. That was from the New Encyclopedia, Catholic Encyclopedia. And concerning the first century Christians, history of the Christian Church says, there is no use of the crucifix and no material representation of the cross. So you see, not by the early Christians. Now I'll read the history of the cross. Where does the Christian cross come from? According to the book, the companion Bible, from which was used for the book, the non-Christian cross. Yeah, the book, the non-Christian cross states, these crosses were used as a symbol of the Babylonian sun god, and and are first seen on the coin of Julius Caesar in 100 to 44 BC, and then on a coin struck by Caesar's heir Augustus in 20 BC. So it was a Babylonian sun god. That's where the crosses were used originally. See, it goes way back to Babylon, these crosses. And we'll read more after. This is it. And then, as is here, and on the coins of Constantine, the most frequent symbol is, what do you call it? The Constantine cross, or the solar wheel. I've got a picture I will show you, but the same symbol is used without the surrounding circle, with which the four equal arms, vertical and horizontal, and this was a symbol especially venerated as a solar wheel. It should be stated that Constantine was a sun god worshipper and would not enter the church till some quarter of a century after the legend of his seeing such a cross in the heavens. As I said, that was from the non-Christian cross. So it goes back, way back to Constantine, way back to Babylon, which I will show you a picture of the Babylonian sun god. You see, that was the symbol of the Babylonian sun god. You can see the cross there. You get that on, what do you call it, Easter buns, don't you? Buns at Easter. That goes way back. And this is the Constantine cross, solar wheel. Both of them are worshipping the sun. He claims to have seen that in a vision in the heaven. More likely Satan, more likely done that. So, and then, Constantine, he became the first Christian, emperor to adopt Christianity when he saw the symbol in heaven of the cross. Because originally it was a circle round that, and he took it off. You see, and he, as I said, I will read more about it, to appease the pagans, because he was a sun worshipper, and to bring them into church. He adopted the pagan Babylonian symbol, I will show you after, and brought it into the church. He mixed paganism with Christianity. It's very likely Constantine's doing. This is, but Satan may well have showed him a vision of a cross, and he brought it into the church, or he united the pagan church with the Christians back then. And also it says it's in the book Short History of Sex Worship. Various figures of crosses are found everywhere on Egyptian monuments and tombs, and are considered by many authorities as a symbolic call either of the male organ or of caution. In Egyptian tombs, the crux ansata, or cross with a circle or handle on the top, is found side by side with the male organ. That's a short history of sex worship in London. From another, book. Would you believe it? So the cross in the form of the crux and and scepter was carried in the hands of Egyptian priests and pontiff kings as a symbol of their authority as priests of the sun god, and was called the sign of life. That was from the book The Worship of the Dead. Can you believe it? Again, going back to Egypt and before that Babylon, always about worship of the sun. I'll show you a picture. So this is the crux and scepter. You know, this is what the ancient Egyptians, you can see it's very similar to the cross, and Egyptians were influenced by Babylon. I will show you with Tammuz. I will speak more about it. The crux and scepter, held by Egyptian priests and kings as a symbol of their authority as priests of the sun god, and was called the Son of Life. You see, it goes way back. Again, the cross in ritual, architecture and art. It's very worrying. This cross and the crucifix is everywhere in the church, and on top of spires of the church, and people have it in their homes, crosses and crucifixes, and even wear it. It's very worrying. And this is what it says in the cross in ritual, architecture and art. It is strange, yet unquestionably a fact, that in ages long before the birth of Christ, and since then in the lands untouched by the teachings of the church, the cross has been used as a sacred symbol. The Greek Bacchus, that's a bad god. The Tyrian Tammuz, the Chaldean Bel, and the Norse Odin were all symbolized in their votaries by a cuneiform device. So all of them, all these pagan gods of the past, all had symbols of crosses. That was from the cross in ritual, architecture and arts. Another one here says here, the shape of the two-beamed cross had its origin in ancient Chaldea and was used as a symbol of the god Tammuz, being in the shape of the mystic Tor. So in the initial of his name, Tammuz, T, that was the shape of the two-beamed cross. The church has now, had its origin in ancient Chaldea and was used as a symbol of god Tammuz, being in the shape of the mystic Tor, the initial of his name, in that country and in adjacent lands, including Egypt. By the middle of the 3rd century AD, churches had either departed from or had traversed certain doctrines of the Christian faith. And listen to this: in order to increase the prestige of the apostate ecclesiastical system, pagans were received in the churches thanks to Constantine, apart from regeneration by faith, and were permitted largely to retain their pagan signs and symbols. Hence, the Tor, or T, in its frequent form, was with the crosspiece lowered, was adopted. So they lowered the crosspiece, was adopted to stand for the cross of Christ. That's from Expository Dictionary of the New Testament. See, thanks to Constantine, when he became in the 3rd century, when he adopted Christianity after seeing the vision of the cross, he brought in the pagans, sun worshippers and pagans, into the church, and to make him happy, he kept some of their pagan beliefs, one of which was the Chaldean god, or the Babylonian god Tammuz. That's where the original of the Christian cross come from. To make them happy, the pagans, and gave and was adopted to stand for the cross of Christ by other Christians that sort of fell away from the truth, really. The T was lowered into the Christian cross today from Tammuz. You see, you've got to be very careful. I would remove it all from your house. And one last one before I talk about, could it be a cross or some other thing that Christ died on? Was it really a cross? So this is the last one. Encyclopedia Britannica says various objects dating from periods long anterior to the Christian era have been found marked with crosses of different designs in almost every part of the old world, in India, Syria, Persia and Egypt, have all yielded numberless examples. The use of the cross as a religious symbol in pre-Christian times and among non-Christian people may probably be regarded as almost universal, and in very many cases it was connected with some sort of nature worship. Can you believe that? The use of the cross was used before Christians and among non-Christian people, or universally all over the world, in a form of connected to nature worship or the sun worship. See, we see everywhere in churches you see the cross hanging on the wall. A cross without the statue of Jesus on it, but still an idol or something to venerate or worship. You see, there's everywhere in churches today, and also another one where Jesus is on a cross. Sorry, it's a bit bright. So this is, and this is, an idol, an image, and as I said, it goes way back to Babylon and ancient Egypt. I mean, these are not, Christian. God does say, get rid of images and idols if you have that, because it's pagan origins, as I said. And what do you call it? So, did Christ really? I mean, did Christ really die on a cross? I will read some information that I found out, because everyone, has crosses in their homes or crucifixes in their churches or homes, and even wear it. So it's, for a Christian, it's very important to worship God in spirit and truth. I will read that after. About was it really a cross, or, as I said, or not? The Greek word rendered cross in many modern versions is torture stake, by the New World Translation, is stauros. So the Greek word, the original word, is stauros. In classical Greek, this word meant merely an upright stake or pale. You see, it was just an upright stake or pale, according to the original classical Greek word for stauros. Later, it also came to be used for an execution stake having a crosspiece. The Imperial Bible Dictionary acknowledges this, saying the Greek word for cross, stauros, properly signified a stake, an upright pole or piece of paling on which anything might be hung, or which might be used in impaling, fencing in a piece of ground. Even among the Romans, the word cruz, from which our cross is derived, appears to have been originally an upright pole. So it says it quite clearly, it was just an upright pole, the original word. So, we use the word cross, the Romans use cruz, but the original ancient Greek word cross comes from steros, and it doesn't mean a cross with a cross piece, but just, it says here, an upright pole, a stake, or a piece of paling. Properly signified a stake might be used in impaling, a fencing in, a piece of ground, etc. Was that the case in connection with the execution of God's Son? It is noteworthy that the Bible also uses the word xylon, X-Y-L-O-N, to identify the device used. The Greek English lexicon by Liddell and Scott defines this as a meaning. This is the meaning: wood cut and ready for use, firewood, timber, etc. Piece of wood, a log, a beam, a post, cudgel or club, stake on which criminals were impaled, of live wood or tree. It also states in a new translation of the cross and cites Acts 5:30 and 10:39 as examples. However, in those verses, King James Version, Revised Standard Version, and Jerusalem Bible all translate it as tree. They all say tree. And also Galatians 3:13 and Deuteronomy 21, 22 and 23. It's quite interesting, Deuteronomy 21, because that was one of the punishments for people that sinned against God in the Old Testament was this. Let me read Deuteronomy 21. It says 22, 23, it says, and in case there comes to be in a man a sin deserving the sentence of death, and has been put to death, and you have hung him upon a stake, his dead body should not stay all night on the stake, but you should by all means bury him on that day, because something accursed of God is the one hung up, and you must not defile the soil which God has given you as an inheritance. So it says here, as in a case there comes to be a man, a sin deserving the sentence of death, and you put him to death, and you must hang him upon a stake. You see, not a cross. So that was in Deuteronomy. It says it quite clearly there. And Galatians 3:13 says, Christ being purchased released us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse instead of us, because it is written, accursed is every man hanged upon a stake. You see, some render it stake. It says here, he was hung upon a stake, just like it says in Deuteronomy. You know, a person put to death, who is, it says here, for sin, hung on a stake. See, it says that others say tree, others translations say stake. I've got three different translations. You know, and they'll either say stake, tree, you know, things like that. It doesn't say cross. That's the more original rendering, correct rendering. You know, pale, a stake, and tree. I've got three different Bibles, and they all say either stake, pale, or tree. A tree has an upright, upright. So it's all, it ties in with that. I better stop there. I could easily do another part. There's so much information that, to prove it wasn't a cross, but more like a, as it says there, stauros is the original word for cross that we use. It's not a cross piece. It's a pale, a stake, or a tree. That's more like the more accurate translation. Just as a straight pole. Some were impaled on a spike. That was horrible, But this Christ was, he was nailed to the pale or stake. That's the original word, not cross. As I said, I could do a lot more. So conclude. These are where ancient crosses were originated from ancient pagan Babylon. Crosses and Tammuz, and that all sun god worship. So if you have any crosses or crucifixes in your house or wearing it, I should be careful and remove it, because it says in John 4:24, God is a spirit, and those worshipping him must worship him in spirit and truth. Truth of God's word, because he says flee from idolatry, and spirit, meaning because God is a spirit, no one knows how he looks like, so no representation, and all images or crosses, because they're still idols or images. So, anyway, if you haven't come to know Christ, please do, because, the end is very, very close. And, you must worship him in spirit and truth. Anyway, God bless. Bye.